Hello everyone, back again with another video. Thank you for joining me again. Let's get right into it. This is a position from a tournament that took place in Dubrovnik. What year? 1950, between Alberic O'Kelly, Belgian Grandmaster with the white pieces, and Miguel Najdorf, famous Polish Argentinian Grandmaster, with the black pieces. Now, let me just say about Alberic O'Kelly. He was a Belgian Grandmaster, but he was also one of the early international correspondence Grandmasters. All right, of course, before the age of computers. He was actually the third ever correspondence Grandmaster, and actually he was the third champion, world champion in correspondence chess. So he was a very strong player, correspondence Grandmaster, and he was also a GM over the board also. So he had the white pieces. And Miguel Najdorf had an interesting life. He was actually a Polish born Jewish person, and his original name is Moishe Mendel Najdorf, and he happened to be in Argentina in 1939 when World War II broke out. And so guess what? He did what most people would do, and he just stayed put where he was at in Argentina, and he wound up changing his name to the one we know today, which is Miguel Najdorf. And of course, he is the father of possibly the most famous variation in chess, which is the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense. All right, and again, this game took place in a city in Croatia called Dubrovnik. So I placed a map over there in a little picture of Dubrovnik. It looks like a very beautiful city, one definitely worth visiting one day. So if you're from that area, shout out to you, and if it's worth visiting, or if you ever been there, tell us in the comments below. What it's like, and how much it costs, and all that type of stuff like that. I find those things very interesting. If you look on the map too, you'll find out that Dubrovnik is at the very southern tip of Croatia. So, all right, all of that is taken care of. Let's get into the game. Oh, one more thing. There's also a player on your upper left. It's like an anonymous female player. If you know who that is, let me know in the comment section. I'll be glad to shout you out on the next video. It's just a little fun way to participate in the channel. Okay, so now in this position we have black to move, which again is Najdorf. And I use this position because I want to give you an insight on how strong players think. And here we can see that black has a lot of pressure on the e-pawn, right? Actually, he could just grab the e-pawn if he wants to, right? The knight on c5, knight on f6, and rook on e8 are all bearing down on this pawn. However, you can see that white has his two knights very beautifully placed on d5 and b5, and threatening to play either knight to c7 and fork the rooks, winning the exchange. So there's some complications here. So for example, Najdorf can just try outright to win the pawn. Let's say with bishop takes b5. Okay, getting rid of one of the knights. And let's say after c takes b5 here from white, and let's just go with it. Knight takes e4, winning the pawn. So bishop takes e4. Let's say knight takes e4, and now knight c7. And after this move, perhaps move like rook e7, rook c1. The game is still a little bit murky here. Another idea is, of course, if rook takes e4, which is a blunder, just bishop takes. All right. But however, a strong move in this position for white would just be b6. So instead of bishop takes e4 here, going into like a relatively equal but unclear position, b6 is actually good for white, because now he guarantees his entry into the c7 square. Okay, so this is no good. Again, bishop takes b5. C takes b5. Another option is just knight takes d5 here for black. Bishop takes now. Here, rook takes, and then you can see the powerful bishop knight off on the g7 a1 diagonal, and the plan basically is a3, exploiting the fact that the rook is somewhat misplaced on a1. But you'll see that this plan could be double-edged also, because sometimes white will just give up the exchange. All right. Let me show you an example here. So in this line, bishop takes b5. Let's just go knight takes f6 here. Bishop takes f6. C takes, and see a3 now. Now it might look good, which it is a good move. You see this a lot, this idea. But b4, right? Give up the exchange as white. Rook takes a1. Knight goes back, and you can see that yes, white is down the exchange, but however now he has a dark square bishop. Black's king side, dark squares are very weak, especially as he's advanced those pawns on the queen side, and there's no open files for black to really shine with his rooks. So white with his bishop pair, his next move will probably be something like rook c1, putting some pressure on the c file so the knight on e6 can't move. This position is murky, unclear for black. White has some clear ideas like rook c1, and I can already see f4, f5, for example. All right. So it's these kind of ideas that we're dealing with here at the board. So Naidorf chose a very simple idea that I want to show you in this game today. So Naidorf actually played knight d5 here. All right. Now some of the themes are the same, of course, with this idea of playing a3, etc., etc. But what he does is he simplifies the position. Now, matter of fact, I'll just show you. So knight takes d5. E takes d5 was played, and you can see I have it highlighted, the idea. Then he traded off on the other knight. Okay. And now he plays this idea a3. Now better for black, better for white is probably to go into this idea that I mentioned before of playing a move like b4 and maybe trying to give up the exchange here. The difference here though is that white actually has open lines for his rooks. Notice the e file is open here, and also he can penetrate via the a file. So it's a different story here. Bishop c5 is possible here. Maybe a2 and rook over. And although black is better here, we have the infamous opposite color bishops here. But that pawn on b2 is very, very annoying. However, in the game, Alberic O'Kelly just simply interposes bishop, right? That's like the easiest looking solution. He's just simply played bishop d4. Hey, we'll trade this off. Takes, knight off took, and queen takes b2. And now this is what I wanted to show you. What you're left with here is you have a good knight versus bad bishop. And why is the bishop bad on g2? The reason is the bishop is hitting its own pawns. The pawn on b5 and the pawn on d5 are both on the same colors as the bishop on g2. And this hinders the scope of the light square bishop severely. Meanwhile, the knight has a good outpost on c5. And so this is the position, this is the idea that Najdorf was shooting for. It's simply good knight versus bad bishop. So if we go back to our starting position, where it looks very complicated, if you spot the bishop on g2 in this situation, and then you think of this idea of trading off everything and just having a good knight versus bad bishop, then the moves become very easy to find. So again, knight takes d5, bishop takes b5, a3, and he's banking on this move due to the threat on the b2 pawn. And here we have it. Now, the next phase is very instructional. So Najdorf cements the knight there by playing b6. Of course, he fixes the pawn also on b5 on the light square. Rook to d2. And now we're going to see the fight for the open files. Queen f5 from Najdorf. So he's putting pressure on the white position on f2 pawn. And of course, d5. O'Kelly wants to trade rooks. And now knight d3. And this is the idea behind the move queen f5 is to penetrate with the knight, to move the knight up the board. Another plan that I came up with myself while I was analyzing this game for this video was rook a5. And the idea is just to put pressure on the b pawn, play queen d7, right? Play rook a5, playing queen d7, and then move the other rook over to the a file to put pressure on the a2 pawn. All right. This would eventually cause white to have to play move like bishop c1, bishop f1 to protect the b5 pawn, and basically really stress out the white position. So this is another alternate plan. Okay. And again, this is just my idea. And the position will look something like this. In the game, Najdorf played queen f5 with this idea of bringing this knight to d3. Knight to d3. And now if O'Kelly just trades rooks, he'll be giving up the e file. And that's what he did. He played rook takes to alleviate the stress off the position and the attack off the queen. Another idea was queen c2, just to give you the idea of the pressure that white is under already. After queen c2, just simply rook takes, queen takes, and now if knight, this is not the best move, but I just want to give you an example. If knight f2, queen e7, and then queen to e5, very strong, attacking the rook on a1. Better here is just rook a3. Knight takes f2 here. A stronger move is just simply rook f1, which is actually winning for black. So you have to be winning for white. After knight f2, rook f1. Let's go back. So rook takes e8 was played. Rook takes, and now queen c2. Attack on the c7 pawn. And here knight off played queen e5. Again, looking at this continuation here, if knight takes f2, then you have queen takes f5, g takes f5, and rook c1, and white's still getting a little counterplay here. So he just played queen e5, hitting the rook. Rook d1. And now the knight just goes back. Okay, and again, you still, at the end of the day, have the good knight versus bad bishop. h4. And now you see the fruition of Najdorf's plan, which was to penetrate down the e-file all along. And now he's threatening the b pawn, and he's also threatening the queen, and he's stressing out the rook, of course, on d1 and the pawn on f2. If queen takes e2, rook takes e2, and again, now f2 and a2 are under attack, and black just picks up material. This is why O'Kelly played, he didn't trade queens, but he just played queen d2. He's trying to hold on to the position, and he's willing to give up the b pawn. So now he's fighting for a draw, and he figures this is my best chance to hold. So now he goes for a trade of rooks. Rook takes, and queen b2, a2 pawn. And now, if queen e8, then just simply king g7. And let's say he goes after the c pawn, checks. And this is very powerful. There's no legitimate defense to this g3 pawn here, and white would be lost there. So this is why O'Kelly did not go for this move, queen e8 check. Instead, he played f4. And now Najdorf, and notice how f4 protects from the line we just mentioned. So he played f4, and now Najdorf moves his king to f8, f5. Now he's saying, hey, let's go into the knight's endgame. Of course, O'Kelly doesn't want to do it. He loses a pawn, and he tries to diminish the quality of the pawns and get his bishop active. But by now, it's a bit too late. Another pawn drops, and O'Kelly resigned. So that was a classic example of good knight versus bad bishop. There's many games. There's many games like that. And my advice to you is, if you're like trying to increase your chess knowledge, you should try to do it in blocks or chunks, if you will, or themes, right? So if you're not really understanding this concept too well, try to look up games where you have one master using a knight at the end and one with the bishop. So look up, and you'll see it from both sides. You'll see bad knight, good bishop, bad bishop, good knight, etc. So just look up games where the side with the knight is victorious over the side with the bad bishop. And just for definition sake, I mean, you could look it up online or whatever, but just for sake of definition and clarity, a bad bishop is a bishop that is hindered by its own pawns. So you can have a bad bishop locked inside its own pawn chain. You could have a bad bishop actually outside of the pawn chain. It's just that the pawns are on the same color of the bishop. That's like the classical definition. Some might not agree. Some might say, well, if the bishop is outside the pawn chain, is it still a bad bishop? So depending on who you ask, but the classical definition is that the bishop is bad if the pawns are on the same color. So this white bishop is bad. There's a example, maybe I'll show that in another video of I believe the game is trying to remember, I know it's Botvinnik game, where his bishop is bad. Botvinnik's bishop is actually on d5 where the knight is, as you can see, and the pawn chain is almost the same. I think you have pawns on f3 and e4, and the bishop is on d5, and so it's a bad bishop. Actually, it's yes, Botvinnik Khan. That's the game, and the bishop is on the on d5. So it's bad bishop, but outside the pawn chain. So just know that a bishop is bad if the pawns are on the same color. So again, if you're interested in pursuing this topic further, look at games where one side has a good knight and the other side has a bad bishop, and see how the play goes from both sides. And don't judge by result. Just look at the play. Whether it's win, lose, or draw, just look at the play between the masters and see how these games turned out for you. So that is it for this video. Listen, thank you for joining my channel again. Note that Chess Audiobooks is on Lichess, same name as here, Chess Audiobooks. I'm also on chess.com, same name, also on Instagram and Twitter. So follow me, hit me up on those, say what's up to me, I'll get right back to you. Any questions, any advice, tips on studying, etc., just hit me up. And also, what else? I think I hit everything else up. Oh yeah, please check the links below, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, all of those good things. And please support my channel, donate. There's a donation link below, and check the DVDs below and books below that you might be interested in related to the topic today. All right, guys. So thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you guys soon on the next video.